Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I am here with a VR to a tag called I've Got a Deck for That. And of course there's a series of prompts which I will timestamp below for which I have a deck. This was originally started by Feeding My Soul 1212, whose original video I will link below. I found this via Tarot Magpie. And I have a list of tags that I have intended to do, and in some cases have planned, 2/3 of my answers out in terms of picking decks and cards and things like that I haven't gotten to. And so this is the beginning of me trying to clear out some of the half-finished tag answers that I have in my LibreOffice writer document where I keep track of YouTube planning. So you may find me posting VRs to some pretty old tags in the coming months because if half the planning's done, I want to do it. So I've got a deck for that. The first prompt is favorite movie genre. And I will say, I've gone all tarot for this. I don't know if that was the expectation or an expectation or not. If it was an expectation, I probably would have not done it. But I've gone all tarot. Some people will pick oracles, but I've gone all tarot. Favorite movie genre. I've got a deck for that, and the deck that I've got is the Stars of Umber Tarot by F.F. Songana. This is a beautiful science fiction themed deck. And I love this deck. It's Pippish. I have all the majors at the front because I was picking things for top tarot trumps. I love this deck. It's got this beautiful color palette, and my favorite movie genre is science fiction, and it is a science fictional deck. Lots of planets, lots of spaceships, really, really beautiful deck. And it's a deck that features all people of color, and I really love it. This was a Kickstarter deck. So that is my favorite movie genre, science fiction, and the Stars of Umber Tarot. The next prompt is favorite movie. I don't know that I have an absolute favorite film, which may seem weird, but I don't think I do. But I don't think my pick is going to surprise anyone, and I think you'll see that there's going to be a bit of a pattern in this deck. I picked the Star Trek Tarot by Telekiad, and this is the Star Trek Tarot for the original series. I do also have their Majors Only deck, which is for the animated series. I love the original series Star Trek films. Of course, I like The Wrath of Khan, which I think, consensus is that it's one of the best. But I also really like Star Trek the Motion Picture, which is a contentious thing to say. I think that one, it suffered from having too much budget. Lots of long shots of how shiny the ship is. But I like the original series Star Trek films very much. So that's what I chose for my favorite movie. The next one is favorite color. And my favorite color is green. But what I kind of went with for this prompt, I don't have an all green tarot deck. Is there such a thing? Let me know. What I went for is kind of my favorite color palette. And so for that, I chose the Ocean Dry Tarot. It's the back. And this deck has a very deliberate use of color and color system. So in the minors, you can see here, this is the ace. It will have the shades used there in these dots at the top. And there's a whole system. The majors have it too. whole system to which colors were chosen where, and different colors being chosen in equal frequency, and different kind of correspondences for the colors. And so I think that this is my favorite use of color in a tarot deck. But also, I really love like jewel tones, like deep blues and greens and purples. And this deck has a lot of those. Just like look at these, look how good that is. This is some of my favorite color in a deck, for sure. And a much loved Pip deck in my collection. So favorite color, Ocean Dry Tarot. For the record, my favorite color is green. Next up is a deck for your childhood self. And I struggled a little bit with this one. Deck for my childhood self. But I ultimately chose my Tarot of the Magical Forest, which has been Kelly Bear modified. And, you know, this, when I was a really young child, I wanted to be a veterinarian. It turns out that I'm not very good at science, but I loved animals. I still love animals, as you all know, and all of my favorite cartoons and things like that as a young person were animal themed. I feel like I, grew up at a time where there was a lot of these kind of cartoons and cartoon films and things that had a very overtly environmentalist slant, like Fern Gully and things like this. And this deck gives me a bit of a reminder of that. And I loved those kinds of programs, probably to nobody's surprise who knows me as an adult. So Tarot of the Magical Forest is my deck for my childhood self. And I think, if a very young child version of me, younger than I was when I got my first tarot deck, would have been looking for a first tarot deck, I think that they would have probably picked something like this. Next up is deck for teenage self. And I picked a deck that I wish I would have had as a teenager, that my teenage self would have very strongly gravitated to, and my adult self does as well. And that is the Earth Mother Magic Tarot by Aishamira Yashin. This is a rhizo-made deck with an eco-feminist kind of a orientation to it. This is a super DIY deck. This is hand cut, plain backs. This is like almost like a cardboardy cardstock, like the most DIY deck you can imagine. And if I saw this on a merch table at a punk show as a 16-year-old, I would have picked this up so fast and hoped that I could get it in my budget, because I sure didn't have any money. But this deck is inclusive. This deck is queer. This deck is feminist. This deck is gender diverse. I, as a young person, would have loved to have this representation. I think that if I had decks like this when I was a teenager, I would have been reading tarot more seriously at that age, for sure. Like, I think I would be maybe even a better reader now if I had decks like this as a teenager. Because I had tarot as a teenager, but nothing that, felt so relatable. And so this is my teenage self deck. Earth Mother Magic Tarot by Aishamira Yashin, a deck that I'm very appreciative of, and I'm very happy is out in the world. And my tarot tube friend Liz kind of alerted me to this creator's work because she gave me a copy of Aisha Miri Yashin's Majors Only deck, and I'm very happy about that. So that's my teenage self. Now, adult self, I find very difficult. A tarot deck for my adult self. That is myself, right? So a tarot deck for me. I think there are a lot of possibilities here. I didn't want to double up anything. So I ended up choosing the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. This for me is my adult self deck because I love a Fancy Pips deck as a reader. These kind of minors that are not quite pips and are not quite illustrated. I love a deck that is diverse and contemporary and relatable, but also not contemporary in a way that it's going to feel dated very quickly, if that makes sense. Like it feels contemporary, but it doesn't feel trendy. That I would say about this deck. And this I also find is a very like multi-purpose deck. I think it reads all different kinds of readings really well. When I'm reading for people that I know, like friends and even some family members, this is a kind of go-to deck because it's, you know, it's relatable. It looks like the world. And so as a reader, as an adult self reader, reading for other people and for myself, this is a deck that I could say represents my adult self. The Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. Next up is favorite song or movie genre. Or sorry, not movie genre, music genre. Song or music genre. I don't know that I have a favorite song. I listen to a lot of music. I've been in bands here and there. I have pretty wide-ranging musical tastes. I like a lot of different genres. I like a lot of different styles. I like different like international styles of music. I can't put my computer or anything with music on it on shuffle because it would it would not be good. You know, the party mood would be all over the place if I put anything of mine on shuffle because things are so all over the place. But, you know, favorite music genre, I've been in punk bands, so that's what I'm picking. And I chose The Next World Tarot by Christy C. Road because Christy C. Road is a punk musician. So it just felt like the most glaringly obvious choice from my collection. And this deck is kind of alone in my collection in a thing that I never thought that I would ever come across. It's a deck where, you know, there are people in this deck who are depicted wearing t-shirts with logos or names on them of bands that I have seen. So, you know, this one, you know, definitely is a very punk rock deck to me. And so that is my favorite song or music genre pick, The Next World Tarot by Christy C. Road, and that's of course the little pocket version. Next up is favorite book genre, and again, the tag is challenging me. How many sci-fi decks can I find in my collection? I would say favorite genre of a book for fiction is kind of the broad kind of SFF, sci-fi and fantasy. And so I picked a deck that to me blends sci-fi and fantasy elements. And that is Tarot of the Cat People by Karen Kuykendall. And this is a deck that has novels that go with it. There are novels set on the world of the cat people, or worlds of the cat people, because there are a number of different societies represented here by the different suits. I haven't read them, but I have them on my e-reader, the books. So if anybody is a cat people enthusiast who wants to read Tarot of the Cat People inspired novels, or rather novels that inspired the deck, I'm assuming is how that went. I'm assuming that's how that went. let me know and we can Cat People Book Club. I think this deck is fantastic. And it's my favorite fiction books are heavy on world building and have believable, fully realized societal structures and belief systems and cultural contexts. And I think that this deck and the guidebook that comes with it does that. Does it do it entirely unproblematically? No. But I think that this is really cool. And I think of everything in my collection, it definitely speaks to my favorite book genres of science fiction and fantasy. Okay. This tag involves a lot of decks and my table is getting messy. Okay. The next one is favorite TV show. Am I allowed to pick Star Trek again? Favorite TV show, has to be Star Trek, like the family of Star Trek television shows. Of course, there are a number of different Star Treks. I really like kind of the era of Star Trek that I really like is the kind of Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, which I didn't like as much, and maybe some Enterprise. My spouse really likes Enterprise. I think Enterprise got interesting at the end. That's the time of Star Trek television that I really, really love. But in the interest of showing something that I haven't shown already, I will show Our Cards Mean Death. This is Our Flag Means Death, of course, themed deck with characters in the major arcana. And I keep intending to make a video about this deck. I am into things about pirates. And I really appreciated so much about Our Flag Means Death. I was so happy that it got a second season. I was really concerned that it wouldn't. And it did, which is great. So I'll just show for folks who haven't seen it. It is a pip deck. So the suits are telescopes and of course cups and of course swords, because what's more pirate than that, and compasses. So this was a Kickstarter deck that I missed, and then someone I know in a tarot Discord group mentioned it or put a link to it or something like this, and I was like, I missed this. And I messaged the artist, and the artist was like, yeah, just PayPal me and I can send you one, like when they were fulfilling the Kickstarter, and I was quite happy about that. So favorite TV show that I've seen that is a recent one, Our Flag Means Death. Favorite TV show in general, Star Trek. I also really like Battlestar Galactica, the newer Battlestar Galactica. I really like Humans. I just rewatched Humans. I thought that was really good. I really liked Orphan Black. Science fiction, obviously. Next up is favorite pastime. And I feel like I'm being repetitive here, but I don't know that I have a single favorite pastime. I don't know if I would consider tarot a pastime. Like, pastime is a weird word for me to talk about tarot in, but I suppose that it fits. But I went in a kind of general answer for this, and I chose tarot for the great outdoors. This, I think, represents lots of my favorite pastimes in terms of outdoor activities, volunteering in the outdoors, canoeing, kayaking, going to parks, picking up garbage at parks, camping. Camping is definitely a favorite. And I'm really excited that the weather where I live is currently going in the direction of more outdoor friendly for me. So camping, hiking, canoeing, swimming outside, all of those things are favorite pastimes. And really I just like, you know, being outdoors as much as possible, which for a druid is probably not that surprising. So Tarot for the Great Outdoors speaks to my favorite pastimes. Next up is favorite holiday or dream destination. I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite holiday destination. So you know, are these cheating? I don't even know. I picked Naturescapes. Again, if you know my tarot collection, this is probably not super surprising. This has a diverse array of nature photographs. So whatever your favorite holiday destination or dream destination might be, there might be something in here that looks like it. This would not be. I have no desire to go somewhere that cold. Yeah. Places where I can spend lots of time outdoors. That is my favorite holiday destination. I suppose the other deck I could have picked for this, like pastime or holiday, would be something like the Great Lakes Tarot. I don't really think of the Great Lakes as a holiday destination per se, given that I live in the Great Lakes region. But certainly, you know, in terms of places to camp and hike and spend time outdoors, which is my favorite thing, that would be another deck that would fit here. Next up is a deck to represent the decade that I was born. So I chose this based on finding a deck as close to my birth year as I could, a deck that is printed in the same decade as I was born. And what I came up with in my collection was Thea's Tarot, which was printed in the 80s, which is the decade that I was born. This copy is in order. So, Thea's Tarot was printed by the artist Ruth West in 1984, I believe. And that puts it in my birth decade and the closest to my birth year. So, Thea's Tarot is the deck that represents the 80s because it was printed in the 80s. And this was recently reprinted by Metonymy Press, which is a publisher in Montreal. But my copy of Thea's Tarot is actually one of the 80s printed copies. So that's when I was born. Next up is favorite flower. A deck to represent your favorite flower. I don't have a favorite flower. I really don't. I like gardening, but I mostly plant herbs and vegetables rather than flowers. Apparently I'm bad at favorites. I'm open relationship with my favorites, right? So for favorite flower, I picked La Flora Tarot, which is full of flowers of all different types. This was a Kickstarter deck quite a while ago as well. And it has the names of the flowers on the side. And then the name of the card as well. It's done in stippling, so it's all tiny, tiny dots. And this deck has an amazing guidebook. Especially an amazing guidebook for someone like me who doesn't actually know a lot about flowers. It mixes kind of medicinal properties as well as kind of folklore and different kind of cultural significances of different plants as well. Very cool. And I do love a black and white deck. So my favorite flower deck is La Flora Tarot because apparently all the flowers are my favorites. Favorite scent. Again, you know what I'm going to say. I don't really have a favorite scent. But the thing that came to mind just standing in front of my tarot shelf of what could be a deck for my favorite scent, I chose the Tarot of Trees by Dana O'Driscoll in the pocket size, which is the only size that I have, and I edged it in green. I love the smell of cedar. And there are so many different trees that I think just smell wonderful. I love being in a forest and breathing forest air. So the Tarot of Trees speaks to that. Okay, so that's favorite scent, Tarot of Trees. I never thought that I would need to associate a deck with my favorite scent. So this is why this tag, I think, is an interesting one. So, favorite food. I don't have a food-themed tarot deck. I also don't have a favorite food. I really, really like food. I like cooking. I like going out for dinner. I like going out for breakfast. I like many kinds of cuisine. I like trying new recipes. I like trying new dishes. I'm pretty, open when it comes to food. I don't dislike a lot of things. I also don't have a favorite. So what I chose for a favorite food deck is Le Tarot Souverain. And the reason that I picked this is because this is a deck with a kind of food justice, food sovereignty kind of a theme. So of the decks in my collection that I could associate with food most readily, this came to mind. So I've got, Riots Not Diets there. The minors are elementally themed. So Earth, for example. The Eight of Earth has books on like permaculture and things like that there. Water. And there are lots of, food kinds of imagery in here. Just to find the most food related cards in the deck. We have things like different food ingredients, a kitchen knife and some plants. It's like chef's coat there. There's lots of the Tower card has a kitchen fire in it. So there's a lot of kind of kitchen themed or food themed cards in this one. Riots Not Diets again. I really like this, like friendship over sharing something to drink or eat. I really like this kitchen knife for the Ace of Air. So Le Tarot Souverain is related to my favorite food again. I don't have a favorite food. If it's vegan and maybe it's a little bit spicy, I'll love it. So as long as I'm not allergic to it. I have one food allergy, but other than that, I just really like food. Finally, favorite beverage. Now, favorite beverage, I have a lot of favorite beverages. Had I purchased the beer tarot, I would probably be showing that. I also like an array of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. I'm definitely a drink person. I have lots of favorite beverages, which maybe means I don't have a favorite beverage. I just have lots of beverages that I like. But for favorite beverage in a tarot deck, I chose the Flow Tarot, which is water themed. It is the beverage that I drink by far the most of. So, you know, it's the one tarot deck in my collection that is very definitely, very specifically themed around, you know, among other things, a beverage. So, the Flow Tarot for my favorite beverage. I've got a deck for that. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments any favorites that you would like to share or any favorites that correlate with particular decks in your collection that you would like to share. And I will see you again soon.